We're live. Hello and welcome back to the Barbarian Philosopher Podcast. This is your host, Jerome Acevedo, and co-host Liron Kayvan. What's going on, brother?
What's up, dude? What's up, everybody?
What's the word? What's new, man?
What's new? Just life, humming along, waiting for the summer to kick in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
How about you?
More of the same. More of the same. I can't think of anything in particular that's worth bragging or bringing up.
Or crying about either.
Yeah. No, not good enough to brag, not bad enough to complain.
Good.
So, I found out recently, we spoke about it briefly, you're teaching the conditioning class at our gym now, or at least one of the classes.
Yeah, Uprise.
Yes,
Yeah.
at Uprise MMA. And you've mentioned before on the podcast that like physical fitness is kind of your forte.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So I'm curious, what is your approach as it pertains to martial arts? So as it pertains to martial arts, what are kind of some of the things that you feel are better to focus? And I ask that, let's say we have somebody, they're an audience member, they're listening, and this is like their first year. They're kind of starting to get into the swing of things and like, okay, I want to take things up to the next level. Basic, level of fitness, nothing special, not, 300 pounds overweight, not a freak athlete.
Yeah.
How do you approach that? Like, what do you feel are the important things and the kind of philosophy that you use?
So going from okay to kind of good in terms of their athleticism. There's a foundation. As with anything, you got to lay your foundation. Same thing with pure like martial arts. You need to know the basics and you need to lay your foundation. And again, it kind of has to be kind of a case by case basis. But things that come to mind is you got to make sure if you're trying to get into MMA and be in decent shape, you got to make sure your core strength is good. So things like plank and side plank. This is really basic stuff. So a lot of guys would be like, who cares? Like plank, I can do a plank for 2 minutes. You should be able to do a 90-second plank. It's if you can't do a 90-second plank fresh, you need to build that up. Side planks too, where you're holding yourself up on your side. Your core protects your spine, and your spine kind of dictates all your movement.
Okay.
So if you don't have those muscles surrounding your spine nice and tight, you're going to be in trouble. So you got to make sure your core strength is good. You got to make sure your balance is good. So you got to do a lot of one-legged stuff, one-legged deadlifts, Bulgarian split squats. We can maybe send a link to some of this stuff.
Yeah, also. Like how to do them and
it's really basic. A one-legged deadlift, you're just kind of standing on one leg and touch the floor, raising your back leg up into the air. Bulgarian split squats is just basically a one-legged squat. Any kind of one-legged leg exercise, pistols, anything where you're balancing is kind of basic. You got to get decent at that for MMA because balance is key.
For sure.
Especially once you start sparring and stuff, you realize being even slightly off balance can change the whole game. All your power and stuff is gone if you're off balance. And then probably the most in terms of the best bang for your buck exercise, I would say deadlifting. Yeah. In terms of weightlifting, deadlift works pretty much your whole body apart from your chest and your arms. But it works your whole posterior chain mostly. So kind of everything from your neck all the way down to your ankles on your backside is getting worked when you're deadlifting, and most of your power comes from that. There are people who say that they can dictate all your athleticism based on what your power to weight ratio is in the deadlift, meaning how heavy you are versus how much you pull in a deadlift is. Some people say it's the be all and end all. I wouldn't necessarily go that extreme, but I'm with them. It dictates a lot of your athleticism. So you should be able to deadlift a fair amount of weight. And just to get specific for people, I'd say they want to shoot for around twice their body weight in a deadlift. So if you're a 180 pound male, you want to hit about 360 pound deadlift for one rep. Making sure you got good form and stuff, your back's not bending the wrong way and stuff. But yeah, that's just a bunch of random stuff off the top of my head. Obviously everyone's different. It depends what your body type is and what you're interested in. But those things should get people started. Getting your deadlift up, making sure your core strength is good, and then working on your balance, that'll get you started for MMA.
Okay, awesome. What do you think? So everything is kind of a trade-off, right? Usually, but if you look at a long distance runner versus a sprinter, right?
Yeah.
Two very different forms of athleticism.
Oh yeah.
So for sure, the cardio and being able to go long distance is a part of combat sports.
Yeah.
But also being able to kind of pack some oomph behind what you're doing and having explosiveness is also going to be a part of it. And it's going to vary from person to person naturally. But in your personal opinion, if you have to give a very general number, like a split, 50-50, 20-80, power versus longevity or ability to go.
Endurance,
Thank you. Yeah. Endurance. Power versus endurance. What would you say you feel is the best split on that, for specifically for MMA or combat sports?
51-49.
51 power, 49.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I would think more on the endurance side, but
that can be a little confusing as an answer, because look, you're not going for hours. Your maximum, you're going half an hour,
right?
So you don't really need to be like someone who does, like an endurance runner is 2-3 hours plus, right? If that's what you're talking about with endurance. A lot of that endurance actually comes from power, actually the ability to generate force in general. I don't want to get too into like the math and the physics and the science and stuff, because I think people just get bored, but a lot of that endurance comes from your ability to generate force. If you're able to generate force well and comfortably and with good form, your body will kind of endurance will work itself out, because your body will never get to a 10. Nothing will be a 10 to your body, which means it's not going to shut down. Yeah, exactly. You're not, and there's lots of elements of that. That's to do with like muscle, you're having like large muscle fiber, but it's also to do with good movement. If you're strong, let me put it to you this way. If you're strong, there are so many things that go into being strong that people don't understand as going into it. It's not just that you have big muscles. It's good movement. It's a lot of innervated not muscle fibers. So that means there's a lot of nerve fibers running through your muscle bellies that also work for efficient movement.
Okay.
And that helps a lot with endurance. That's why you see swimmers, long distance swimmers, they lift weights. Even endurance runners, they lift weights.
Right.
Again, I don't really know about the Kenyan guys who do like 10K, 15K, 20K type of stuff. That's really not my forte. But no MMA fighter is ever going to have to come close to that level of endurance.
Right.
And honestly, if you put those guys in a ring, and you teach them the basic movements, but then you put them in a ring and even hit pads, let alone spar, I guarantee you they're going to be gassed after 2 minutes. Because there's so much to endurance that has really nothing to do with what we think of as endurance.
Okay.
There's correct breathing patterns, especially when you go from, you take a guy who hits pads really, really well, and then you get them sparring for the first time, the first couple of times, or you put them in a cage and they're gassed after a minute and they don't understand what's going on. A lot of that is correct breathing, managing adrenaline, like learning how to kind of flow with all the complex things that are going in your body and not resist that. So it can get really, really complicated. But if you want to increase your endurance and make sure you have endurance for your sport, a good place to start is actually getting strong. Okay.
You mentioned the deadlift, and this is just a curiosity, as it's something I've seen people do quite often, and I never really understood. So if the deadlift is kind of the king of basic exercises for upping your strength, let's say, I notice when you see people deadlift, they'll do one hand palm facing them, one hand palm facing away, as opposed to both going in one direction. Why? Like, what is the benefit of doing it that way?
Well, it's like, it's just the way that the force goes. Like, if you put your both palms facing the same way, there's actually a way for the bar to easily slip out.
Okay.
It's like, think about like the bar. The bar wants to be on the ground. The bar doesn't want to be suspended in the air, right? It's got gravity. The bar wants to be on the ground,
right?
And it's looking for a way out. If you put both your hands in the same direction and you keep the thumb side, the opening, right? If you guys can see the opening, on the same way, then the bar can come out this way. But if you flip that grip, then there's nowhere for the bar to go this way and then nowhere for the bar to go that way. So you're kind of sandwiching it.
Right.
Right? And that means that you don't have to worry so much about the bar slipping out. You get to focus more on your muscles before
right.
you work.
And I can see where that would become an issue if you're deadlifting, let's say, double your weight or something like that.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, once you start getting above your body weight things, what starts to give up more and more is not your whole posterior chain, but the weakest part of the chain, right? So magicians, when they want to get out of chains, they actually find the weak chain, right?
Right.
Because that's how you make a chain. You have to have a weak one to create the whole chain. So every chain has a weakness, right? It's just the way, the way physics works. And the same thing with your body. You have weakness in your posterior chain, right? In those muscles, and it's usually your grip. Your hands are not usually as strong as your back or your glutes or the rest of your body. I mean, obviously,
right.
It's a point of leverage, which we take advantage of in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. But
in the weightlifting game, you want to kind of balance that out. So you want to give your grip as much help as possible. So then that's why people start. Obviously, there's that grip that helps the X grip, but then there's also like people start using chalk and start using wraps and stuff. And people say, oh, you're cheating, you're not doing it properly. That's true to some degree, they are cheating, but it's also they're lifting weight for a purpose, and sometimes that's smarter. So sometimes you have to do that.
I definitely want to come back to this subject on another day.
Absolutely.
And let you just nerd the fuck out and get into the science and the numbers of it and all of that. Because I definitely feel like for myself, the physical fitness aspect is something I can work out a lot on.
Yeah, it's a great point of leverage. You'll see your athleticism and endurance go up a lot if you are completely untrained individual in terms of like strength training. You're going to see a big jump in kind of all the other facets of your game, MMA and non-MMA, just athleticism in general, but in your martial arts work too.
Yeah, and I feel like it's an important part. I mean, you figure, especially if you're, not to sound like a douche here, but if you're in a legit martial art, meaning if you're taking it for the point of actually using it. Look, if you're doing, I don't know, fucking Tai Chi because doing this helps you meditate, that's fucking awesome. I'm all for that. That's cool. If you're doing, I don't know, Aikido because you like the history of it and you want to preserve the history, super fucking cool.
Absolutely.
No hate on that.
100%.
But if you're learning something for the purpose of, I want to fuck someone up if it comes down to it and my life is on the line, I want to make sure I walk away, making sure your body is able to endure what that entails, not only what you're doing to the other person, but just the strain of putting that energy out. You can damage yourself. So I feel like that's an important thing for listeners who may be new to the game, and for myself, that's an area I want to step up as well. So for sure, let's come back to that within the next couple episodes.
Gladly, I'd love to.
I asked you this earlier, I don't remember what you said. Recently there was a press conference. Daniel Cormier and John Jones kind of were going at it.
I know, I didn't keep up with that one. What happened?
It was very entertaining.
These guys got a hard on for each other.
Man, they love to hate each other.
Yeah.
They love to hate each other. I'm actually thinking of doing a short video on Daniel Cormier, and a lot of people ask, why so much hate for Daniel Cormier? You notice, he gets booed a lot. And he's not an asshole dude. He's not, by all logical reasons, there's no real reason to boo him. Right? But he gets booed a fucking lot. And I think there's a social thing going on, a group dynamic going on there.
Which
just everybody in the audience, everybody who's watching, everybody who follows. And the gist of it, and hopefully I'll be able to expound a little bit better if I end up doing the video, at least in my opinion, is this. The fighter is kind of a prototype, right? We live in a very safe world where there's not a lot of risk taking, there's not a lot of danger, you know, it's just everything is nice and safe and simple. Okay? So historically we've had a need for the type of individuals that could face danger and can face pressure and can take on challenges without being phased, right? And a very easy way to demonstrate that is combat sports. The average person, at least in most Western countries, does not get in a fight. You can as a man go your entire life and never have a fist fight.
Oh yeah,
right. And there's plenty of people who are like that.
In the Western world.
Yeah, for sure. So to watch somebody choose to go in and face another person who's a legit monster kind of represents that aspect of the human being, the warrior, the hero, that kind of prototype. I'm gonna go out and slay the dragon, right? But I think we're wired to suss out when somebody wants to be the hero, but maybe isn't hero material, right? And so when you have somebody who we look to be in that position, but they start displaying characteristics that we don't associate that. So if you remember when him and John Jones would first started, like the beef first really started, and people would boo him, he would like openly complain, like, why are you booing me? Like, look what John did. How come you're not booing him? You're booing me. Did it? Looking to the audience for help instead of just taking the pressure and moving on with it, I think triggers something in people's subconscious where like, this guy isn't the fucking dude. He's not the prototype that we're looking to.
So like kind of like they were testing him. And
maybe not consciously. I think they were legit, you know, giving him shit. But it's almost like if a stray dog sees you, and he just happens to be coming in, you know, on your path, and he sees that you're scared, he's gonna amp up whatever he's doing. I think people have a version of that as well, where if they can feel like what they're saying or what they're doing is affecting you, they go, "Oh, he's weak here," and they hone in on that. And you can't respect somebody and feel sorry for them at the same time. So I feel like his ploy to like, wait, no, don't boo me, but what about him? Kind of is like pulling on the empathy card, which morally may be correct and his logic might be right, but that decreases his respect card.
So maybe he needs to just embrace the bad guy role.
Well, this is what happened in this last little spat that they had.
I remember the one that they had before when John Jones was on cocaine or whatever he was in. He got real nasty in that one. He's like, "I will kill you." That one.
Yes.
That was He got real nasty in that one. I think that was drugs talking personally because I'm smashing stuff.
It's cool.
I think that was a drugs talking personally because that did not seem congruent with who he had displayed himself to be. Not just the drugs, but I mean, I think he kind of lost himself at that point. I don't think John Jones is really like that. I don't think he's one of those guys, personally. Okay. I don't see it. Maybe in that moment that was real to him. I'm not saying he's a phony, but that doesn't really jibe with who he seems to be in the public image I've got. I don't know the dude. Maybe he's like that, to be honest. But I remember that interview. That seemed like... that seemed like a big jump out of his person. For
sure, check out the most recent one. I'll send you a link later, and I'll put it up in the description below for people. But Cormier, here's another example of the, looking for help, getting empathy, losing respect, right? Tyron Woodley. If you notice, there's a lot of like complaining, a lot of like, you guys aren't being fair to me, right? And it's caused people to dislike him as a champion. I think I haven't quite fleshed out this idea, but I think there's a social dynamic there where if you compare that to, let's say, a Chael Sonnen, a Muhammad Ali, a Conor McGregor, somebody who takes the shit and dishes it back, and whether you're booing them or not. Take for example when who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah.
Someone tried to talk shit. He was like, "Hey, I don't know you.
Yeah.
How come you're?" It's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
You come at me, I'm gonna come at you back.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna look for help.
That was not the right moment to speak for that. It was Jeremy Stevens.
I think so.
He was not the right moment to open his mouth. I don't think. Speaking of kind of like he was good in that press tour he had with Aldo, that big one. I mean, he must have been getting mountains of shit from the Brazilians.
Yeah.
But he really, like, you can't fake that. He really absorbed it. Like, to see a flood of people who, for whatever reason, right or wrong, hate your guts in that moment, and to just kind of eat that up and roll with it and embrace it, is really a sign of, that you are that guy. Testicular fortitude, exactly. Being that dude, like a real fighter. And that's what we're seeing in the game now. It's like, you can't just show up and fight.
Yeah.
That's not it anymore. You need to be not just a fighter in the ring. You need to be a warrior. Someone who's willing to go to a war. And war is not the battle. War is everything that goes into it. All the, from when you wake up till you go to bed, like, there's no escape from war. So you have to be willing. That's the game now, especially with the social media stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not the same as it was 10, 20 years ago. I can only imagine what would have happened with people like Muhammad Ali and stuff now. But those guys, you could tell, even though there was less limelight on them, you could tell that they were ready for war, and that's why they're legends. They're not just great men or great fighters; they're legends. They were ready for every in and out of the game, every little shredded detail, all the rough and the smooth. And those guys are rare. Those guys are rare. And if you're on the pedestal and you're champion and you're not that guy, people are probably going to find out.
Yeah.
And they probably won't like it that much. It's probably going to be a big fall from grace from some of those guys. So yeah, like you said with DC, I think maybe he needs to embrace the fact that you can't control what people think of you. Fuck them.
Absolutely.
But what did you say? You said he had been doing it.
Well, yeah, at least during this last interview, he seemed a lot more, I'm not going to try to be buttoned up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to be, Mr. Clean Cut. And just kind of like, fuck it. Fuck me, fuck you.
Yeah.
We're going to sling shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to worry about image. You guys can boo me. Same thing when he won against, who did he just Anthony Johnson recently.
Yeah.
And people were booing me. He's like, boo me. I'm making money and getting belts. Like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
And I think if he continues down that path, you're going to see his popularity change. You're going to see the booing.
That's the ironic thing. Once you accept that people hate you, they begin to love you.
The less you care about people not liking you, the less people don't like you.
Yeah.
It's a very odd dynamic.
It's an odd dynamic. It's just one of those paradoxes of life.
Let's jump to, we had a couple recent, what time do you have right now?
Oh, we good. We got another 10 minutes more.
Okay, cool. Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus...
You want to check?
Yes. As Brendan Schaub calls her, Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
I don't think she does.
Hey, who knows? It's not uncommon in combat sports for women, to not jerk a dick.
To not jerk a dick, yeah. She should really just come out. Anyway, go on.
She fought Andrade. What did you think of that fight?
I liked it, man. I'm gaining more and more respect for female fighters. I think they're not just technically good. You're seeing more and more like real fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is proven. I used to think that most women didn't have it in them. I would see women's fights and they would get hit in the face and then they turn around. You know that shit when someone gets hit, like when they first start sparring and they get hit and they don't like it and they literally stiffen up and turn away from someone.
Yeah.
And that right there is like, you're not a fighter. So I used to see that a lot in female fights. Now I don't see that. Not only that, but I see some real sluggers. Like Andrade was tough as nails, got the shit beat out of her and kept coming forward. And to be honest, had Jędrzejczyk running, I wouldn't say running scared, but point fighting in the last round and looking at the clock.
Mm-hmm.
And, for her, if you flip it to Joanna, she is an amazing mixed martial artist.
Yeah.
She has everything she does, what DC was saying in the fight, is perfect. She's so clinical, she's so crisp with everything. Her technique is so good, and she's so quick, and she does damage, and she couldn't put that chick away, Andrade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, that last round, she did start to look to just get the W, and which for me is telling. Mm. And I think Andrade can be proud of herself and maybe come back for a rematch. Mm-hmm. Because even though she was beaten physically and on points, she wasn't,
She wasn't broken.
She wasn't broken.
Is there anybody that you can... I can't think of anybody that I think like, okay, this is the broad who's going to bring it to Jerkezadek. Like, she is fucking head and shoulders above the competition right now, man.
Yeah, but I think... First of all, we've said that and seen that so many times. We said that about Ronda, right?
True, very true.
I think a few sages probably saw holes in her game, but for the most part, everyone was like, "Yo, this girl's a machine. She's going to be here for 10 years and then she's going to retire undefeated or whatever." And that did not happen at all. I don't think the same is going to happen with
Joanna.
With Joanna, but I think we saw a potential kryptonite in being able to absorb her. I don't think anyone's gonna outstrike her or be as good in terms of clinical striking and Muay Thai and stuff. And her wrestling is good, her wrestling defense is good. But I think maybe someone who really takes out of a game, someone who can take that punishment and keep coming forward and stay calm and hit her with some big shots and see. Andrade said that her chin, Joanna's chin, was questionable before the fight. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I think that she's such a winner that she might not take well to someone who's just a real killer, like someone who's not necessarily the best point fighter, but is a real killer. So I think she potentially has weaknesses. I'm glad to keep watching her fights. I wouldn't say that she's untouchable, but at this point, in terms of class and in terms of skill, she's a cut above.
Yeah, for sure.
To me,
for sure. You did you say you saw the Kevin Lee fight?
Yeah, I watched the Trinaldo. Right. Which was interesting. So we way off date here. I don't know, but his last one in March, I watched just because you've been talking about him. And he was the guy Mayweather had brought in. And I just was curious right before just now. And that is a very strange choice.
Right?
The only thing about him is that he is the same height and the same reach. But you could have got a boxer to do that.
Right.
Like, you could have found a boxer who was 5'9", 77-inch reach. You didn't need a guy. This guy's not a boxer.
No.
The guy is a wrestler. He's a complete wrestler with some head kicks. And he's had a good run. He finds a way to win. I mean, in that Trinaldo fight, he was taking a real thumping. He was taking a real thumping on his hands and his, by hands and feet. By hands and on the ground. And he didn't have any answer. And then suddenly he came out with a head kick, which dazed Trinaldo. And then he jumped on him and kind of like slid up him and got mount. And then Trinaldo turned around and displayed some horrible jiu-jitsu defense, which was very strange because he was good aggressively, the other guy, Trinaldo, but then displayed some horrible jiu-jitsu defense. Left that figure four, that Kevin Lee left a figure four with his leg on the inside. I don't know if we can post something here or not, but if anyone understands jiu-jitsu, you never leave your leg, which I've learned the hard way recently. You never leave that kind of the binding leg, the one that's on the top, kind of out. Right. Otherwise, the guy who's being put in the figure four can just hook his leg over your foot and crush it inwards, and it has nowhere to go, and either the foot or maybe even the shin sometimes can just snap. Like if you leave it over and the other guy hooks it, which is very easy for the other guy to do if he has the wherewithal to focus on his lower body instead of his upper body. Yeah. Which may be harder in a real fight, but still. If he has the wherewithal to do that, that's it. It's game over for this guy. He's going to break his leg. So the fact that he didn't even try to do that and he kind of tapped, and the choke was over his jaw, Which again, yeah, that shit hurts, but I don't know.
I wonder how much of that had to do with exhaustion as well.
Trinaldo was winning that fight until 30 seconds before, but yeah, he probably gassed himself in trying to like get Kevin Lee off of him because he had full mount for a long time. He just turned and gave him. He looked like he just didn't know what the fuck he was doing in defense. To be honest with you, like I'm not gonna, kiss his ass. But like the guy fucked up royally. Anyway, point being, this guy Kevin Lee is not a boxer. I don't know what Mayweather was doing, bringing him in as a sparring partner to prepare for Conor McGregor. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm with you on that, man.
Yeah. I literally couldn't think of anyone less like him.
Man, I mean, you'd have to go back to like fucking Tank Abbott or something.
Yeah, I think Tank Abbott would be better.
Right.
He hits hard, don't he?
Right. Man, were there any other fights that you saw from this card in particular that stuck out to you or that was worth mentioning?
That was the JDS fight. That was the main card.
Yeah. Okay. What did you think about that?
I think JDS tried something new. He tried to fight moving backwards. He used a lot of kicks. He was, he's with a new camp, ATT, I think.
Okay.
And he tried something new and it didn't work.
Yeah?
It didn't work to me. He got some nice leg kicks. He hurt. He was in it it was a 3-minute, 4-minute fight. But it was like, it didn't feel like that, It felt like it was like a 3-round fight. It wasn't like one way by any means. But, he was moving back a lot, and against Stipe, like the guy's got so much knockout power. He just literally just tagged him one time. JDS kept moving back against the cage, putting himself up against the cage because he wanted distance.
Yeah,
he didn't want to stay in close with him. Which is kind of really comes down to fear of exchanging, and he just put himself against the cage to try and get those long kicks out. And he just literally Stipe just like a brawler just.
Well, Joe Rogan and Cormier mentioned this as well. That this is an area. It's something that Junior Dos Santos does quite a bit, which is backing himself up into the cage, but also gets him into quite a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
And I wonder why. I have to wonder why his cornermen or his coaches haven't made holding the center a bigger priority for him.
Yeah, but they can tell until they're blue in the face. And,
fair enough.
What happens in a fight is kind of like really. Yeah. Your training is key, but what happens in a fight is once the cage door closes, all bets are off.
Yeah,
your training might go out the window. It's been every strength has a weakness, and that style has been successful for him. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
Really, he needs to sort that shit out. But that style of keeping distance and then coming with that kind of that hook, or how he knocks people out. He's not like a coming forward fighter in general. That style has worked for him, but he tried to use leg kicks and stuff, and he wasn't focusing on his hands, and he just got knocked out. So it didn't really work.
I feel like another thing that is kind of holding him back, or has held him back in his last few fights, is he's kind of a pot shotter. He's looking for a big shot, as opposed to putting together continuous strings of combinations.
Yeah,
and I think people are kind of cognizant of that, and are aware that he's going to throw a big one, maybe a big 1-2, and then reset. And if you can just get out of the way of that 1 or that 1-2, let him back himself into the cage, and then just start throwing. He has problems. Yeah, man.
So see what happens with him.
All right, brother. Well, look, I know you got some stuff you got to do, man. I appreciate you taking the time, brother.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you to the audience for listening. If you've enjoyed this, please comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought of the fights. And peace. All right, brother. I appreciate it, man.
No worries, man. Those are some links that I thought of.